We're now approaching our 4th week of isolation and social distancing. And one of the most frequent questions that we're asked is how can we provide physical comfort and regulation to a child or to an adult who is in distress if we're complying with social distancing guidelines. There's many ways that we can do this, and hopefully this video will really support you to find a way to do that for either children in your care or if you're using virtual environments to connect with children and maintain your connection, of what you can offer in those environments as well. When we form secure attachments with another, it's a process of being met in our emotional needs and our physical needs, of feeling close physically and emotionally to our caregiver. Throughout that process, as we're connecting and attaching, we're activating the care system and we're producing a hormone, oxytocin, that really cements those pair bondings. Oxytocin is regulatory, gives us a sense of well-being, it is anti-anxiety and it's anti-aggression, and it really pulls us into connection with others. Now, there are key elements when we are in distress of that primary attachment relationship that really help us to regulate. We offer physical comfort through touch, which releases oxytocin. We may be offering kind of emotional connection and physical connection through our face, and particularly through eye contact. Again, this releases oxytocin, and we're also using our voice. So often when we're soothing others, our voice is very melodic and prosodic, and it again is a regulatory mechanism. Now, there's evidence to show that the voice particularly, in that regulatory, melodic, prosodic intonation that we use when we're comforting another, has a significant impact and raises oxytocin. Ideally, when we're presented with someone who is emotionally distressed, what we would offer is a combination of all of those elements in order to comfort. So we may reach out and offer physical containment and comfort through touch. So that might be in the form of a hug, it might be a hand on the back, it may be a reassuring squeeze of the hand. We'd be making eye contact and showing through our facial expressions that we may be mirroring some of the emotion that we can see that communicates a sense of being felt and heard and understood by another. And we'll be using our voice. And the impact of that is that we raise oxytocin levels that impact on the body's stress response and quieten it, returning us quicker to a state of equilibrium and steadiness again. Seltzer, Ziegler and Pollock's research into the body's hormonal response to vocal cues showed that we have an almost identical response in elevating oxytocin levels to just vocalizations. It follows a very similar pattern to physical presence and is almost as powerful. So when we can reinforce this with visual cues or a visual stimulus, what we can activate are mirror neurons. And what mirror neurons enable us to do is feel physically in our bodies a sensation or an experience that we are witnessing or watching. So in watching someone else hug and comfort themselves, we get a sense of that experience in ourselves. And gives us a real definition of where our body ends, and can be very grounding and regulatory. And we absolutely can use this when we're comforting children who are only maybe having connection with remotely, or where we're observing the social distancing guidelines. So we can offer comfort and physical regulation by the use of our voice and activating mirror neurons. What we're going to do now is really look at how we can do that and some ideas for you to use with children or adults that you're working with. One of the ways that we can comfort is to use what Dan Hughes calls loud empathy. So we can use our breathing and make it really audible, slow it down to help regulate the child. So deep in breaths and loud out breaths. And then what we can do is use our voice to wrap empathy around the child and making that socially engaging and melodic and calming for the child. So Dan again uses this as a storytelling voice. So musical, modulated, up and down, that really draws the child in. As well, we can use something called somatic experiencing. It comes from the work of Peter Levine, and is about activating mirror neurons. So the child has a visual stimulus with this and can see this action and feel it within themselves as well. So what we can do here is teach them to take their right hand and place it just underneath their left armpit so that it's close to the heart, and then wrapping the other arm around onto the shoulder and squeezing and saying, I'm really wishing I could hug you tightly and make this better for you. I'm so sorry. It's so difficult being all on your own. I'm so, so sorry. So using both physical touch, the child will get a boost of oxytocin and can hear your voice at the same time. If we can use with younger children either a cushion or a soft toy to do the same thing and say, imagine hugging it so tightly and feeling how tight and secure that feels. And I'm so sorry you're having to do this on your own. And we can also use blankets for the child to wrap themselves in. Weighted blankets particularly have that added sensory input of that extra weight and containment. But what we can also use is literally a metaphor for having a hand on a child is to use a glove and fill it with rice or pulses, anything that gives it a weight, and use that to place on the child's shoulder when they're physically present with us. So that they can feel that someone is with them. So they've got that added sensory pressure too. There's also been some really beautiful ideas on the internet of ways to pass a hug virtually, and particularly to maintain a connection between relatives that the child's maybe not seeing. And using wallpaper spread out with the child's arms out at the sides, to draw around the outline of the child, have the child colour it in and cut it out, roll it up and send it to someone so that they can literally wrap their arms around someone that's important and significant to them. Hopefully this will give you a few ideas to use both with the children in your care that you are maybe feeling that you're not able to comfort in the way that you would because of social distancing, but also will give you some ideas to work with children that you're maybe interacting with online, whether that's over the phone or in more sort of live formats. But please don't underestimate the significance of your voice alone. If I think about how many times I've said in the past couple of weeks, oh, it's so good to see your face, it's so good to hear your voice. And that's the same experience for our children and each other as well. Stay healthy, stay safe and stay connected. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully in the not too distant future. Take care.